Spanish is the second most spoken language in the world at the moment. It has been growing in popularity since it has been considered a charming language, but also because it's very similar to other languages such as French and Arabic. Also, the most unique aspect of the language of Spanish is the letter N with a little wave on it that sounds like ñe. This letter was introduced to the language while people were still using and talking the language of Latin. But with this letter, it was considered like vulgar Latin since it was only people in the streets or poor people that were using this language. This letter can be introduced in words and can be sound as a G or an N next to each other if we talked about it in English. And it really has a deep meaning for the ñe. For example, we can say araña, which is spider, and we can say cumpleaños, which is a party type.
Like in every languages, Spanish has its own phonetic alphabet. I'm going to give you some examples of some letters that might be different than in the one that you might know. For example, this letter that looks like a B would be called a voice biblial fricative. You can hear it in the word bébé or viva. It sounds like about in English, but without closing your lips completely, so it would be more like about. Then you have this letter that looks like a J, would be a voice palatal approximant or a yod. You can hear it in the word ayuno, that sounds like in you in English. This reversed 6 is called a voice dental fricative. You can hear it in the word juventud, ou atmosfera, that sounds like this in English.
Furthermore, in written form, when someone wants to ask a question or express an exclamation mark, the mark will be seen at both sides of the sentence. For instance, in an exclamative type of sentence, you will need to put an inverted exclamative point at the beginning of the sentence and a normal one at the end of it. It's the same for an interrogative sentence as well. Hey Vera, did you know that saying yo estoy feliz in Spanish means I'm happy?
Oh yes, I know, but did you know that you don't have to add the pronouns before the verb? You could only say estoy feliz.
Really?
Yeah, like I said to Alicia before, you don't have to add the pronouns before the verb. But did you know that there is also two ways to say the verb to be in Spanish, which is ser y estar. You use the verb ser to talk about something permanent, for example, a name or an object. I could say, soy Beatriz, ou soy canadiense. And you use estar for a location or an emotion. For example, estoy en mi casa, or estoy a la escuela. Alicia, did you know that in Spain they use vosotros, vosotras instead of usted, ustedes?
No, I didn't know.
Yes, they use vosotros, vosotras in a formal situation, such as when speaking to a doctor or for a job interview. But in Mexico, they only use usted, ustedes.
Even in a formal situation?
Yes, they use it for every situation and don't use vosotros, vosotras in Mexico.
That's interesting.
As we talked about in the interview with Paula, in the Spanish language, there is many different ways to say the same word.
For example, we can start with computer, that is pronounced ordenador in Spain and computadora in Mexico. And there's also eyeglasses, which is called gafas in Spain and lentes in Mexico.
Then we have the word straw, that would be parrilla in Spain and popote in Mexico. To say to drive a car, they would say conducir un coche in Spain and manejar un carro in Mexico.
Whew, I learned so much about Spanish linguistics today.
Me as well, but I hope you guys did too.